and welcome to In the Process of Healing Season 2 with me, KHASANTE. Oh my god, I can't even believe I'm doing this. Welcome to my podcast. It's kind of got revamped a little bit for the people that have been here before, and for the people that are new, welcome to the family. This is In the Process of Healing. It's so interesting to me because I think I did season 1 out of just like, this is something I want to do. This is just like a little project, something really cute, which it was. And then the outreach that I got was beyond what I could expect or fathom. But in all the best ways, I know, please do not kill me. It's been 2 years. I'm aware. I am so sorry. Well, it's been a year and a half. I'm aware. I'm sorry. I thought that I would move a lot quicker, but as we all know, literally the namesake of my title, we're in the process of healing. And I was in the process of healing. So, and still am. So, today, as you notice, I'm alone. I'm by myself. And that's for good reason. Season 1, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Quite frankly, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just doing it for like a bit of fun. Well, it wasn't a bit of fun. I knew that there was something in this. There was something in the beauty of talking about healing and wanting to heal, or like even in the process of like thinking that you're healing. Because it felt like that was what a lot of my friendship conversations were centered around, or conversations when I was going into jobs was about. It was looking about how we could heal and what aspects that we need to heal of our lives to grow as an individual, or if there even is a place for us to grow, or if this is it, this is what we should be thankful for, and what that looks like to different people, because everyone is so different. That being your family, you could be growing up in the same family and all have also different experiences of being in that one family. So I thought, let me start off with just myself as my own guest, because a lot of the messages that I was receiving was, we love it, but who are you? We love it, but we'd love to see your face. We love this podcast, but why, like, and rightly so, why should we listen to you? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know. Quite frankly, I think for me, I'm quite inquisitive as a person, and I do want to learn, and me learning, I love learning through others. And I feel like podcasts, that be in content, that be in films, that be in movies, films, TV shows, songs, we can learn so much from each other, and that's what will help us grow. Or that's how I feel anyway, in my hearts of hearts. So I purposely wore this jumper, and where I'm now located, a sweater that says, "You're good enough." And it is very important to me to remind myself of that. This was gifted to me by such a beautiful human beings, a couple Christmases ago. And it just only felt right to wear something when I'm feeling a bit like, not as confident as I usually would in circumstances like this, but I do think it's indicative of like what I'm trying to put across, this message that we are good enough. We are good enough where we are at now. Even if that's when we're struggling, even if that's when we're thriving, even if we're in between or we don't know what we're doing, we are still good enough. So, without further ado, I'm gonna do it like as if I'm interviewing any other person. It will feel a little bit different. I'm still trying to work out like how this approach is coming across, as I don't have no big fancy production team behind me. I don't have no big fancy like cameras and lights. This is just very raw. And I would say one thing that's a blessing is that people kept mentioning to me what they like about the content that I create or things that I put out is very raw. And I didn't want to lose that feel, because I feel like sometimes the production value of like shows, yes, it's great. It gives you that more like deep focus on what the person is saying. I totally agree with that, and I will not ever slander someone else's production value or what they've created, because they've taken their time to get there. And I pray that I can take my time to get there as such, but still keeping the authenticity. And I don't want to lose that. So the idea of this season is just I almost an in-person conversation. I want you to feel like you're in the room with me or my guests when we're having these conversations. I'm going with this term fly on the wall, where it feels like, you're just a fly on the wall. You want to wish you were in that conversation when it was being had. But right now, I'm having a conversation with you. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this, probably watch, because, I'm giving the people what they want. Like, I'm showing my face, which is like a big thing for me, because I think I'm being vulnerable as myself as KHASANTE, vicariously Khaled, if you know me as Khaled. This is who I am, and this is the journey I've been on so far. So, without further ado, now, whilst we've got all those out of the way, a big question I've been asked is, why am I doing this, and what's the reason? So at the point in time at which I deciphered that I wanted to do in the process of healing, I was in a place of, I guess you could call it unbalance, or feeling very disassociated with myself. I had gone down the corporate route of, I need to make money to survive, rather than following my passion and the career that I love. And in a lot of ways, it was great that I was making more money, or like consistently making more money, should I say. Not necessarily that it was a lot more money, but I was consistently making more money. That I was just miserable. I was really, really miserable. Yes, it was lovely. It allowed me the luxuries of like material things, but I was struggling to go to sleep. I was, you know, trying to numb the pains through things that, we commonly see as acceptable. Drinking alcohol, like, it wasn't excessive by all means, but it was like 1 or 2 glasses before bed. And that's okay. If that is your means, that is okay. I also want to highlight that's perfectly okay. But for me, that wasn't my regular routine. So I could feel the difference in who I was becoming, waking up very like just disassociated and very sluggish, and that for me wasn't okay, because I'm used to being like, I want to get up this morning. What has the day like? What's the day to bring? Like, I'm very blessed to wake up this morning. There's some people that haven't woken up this morning, so I could see there was a slow change, and that was the bit that was scary. Is that it was a slow change. It wasn't like this big thing happened and then like one after another. It started to be a slow change, which I say that in hindsight, yes, there was a thing that did happen, as I'm pretty sure I probably get across to you throughout the season. But it there was multiple things that happened, but usually I'm able to rise above it. But this time round, it just felt stagnant. It felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't wake up. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was kind of scary, because family and friends started to notice, and people were concerned. And as much as I was saying I was okay, I clearly wasn't. And that's okay to also accept now that I wasn't. At the time, I guess there was a sense of in denial, because it was just like, what do you mean? I'm still making money. I'm still getting up to go to work. I'm still doing these things, but it was different. The attitude was different. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And that for me became very isolating. So I got to a point where I didn't know what I was doing. I was also doing therapy, which was great. It was great. It just, I think I've done therapy in various forms, and I think a lot of people go into therapy believing that this is what's gonna give you all the answers, but rather guide you to where you need to be. or guide you through this moment of chaos in your mind, or this moment of chaos around you, and actually just guide you through it so you feel more safer in making decisions that will be healthier for you, not necessarily answers. And I think that's one thing that maybe not took for granted, but I was like, okay, well, I'm paying this person, they should know what I should be doing. And a lot of the time was, oh, you're very intellectual, you're very like, you know how to decode things, so what's the issue? If this is what you're doing, and you know that you're doing it, and you know it's dysfunctional, why keep doing it? And hearing that back is like, okay, then so what do you want me to, like, where do I go from here? So I realized that maybe this process of therapy wasn't really working for me. And then there was some dysfunctional things that were happening around me, and choices I was making that weren't usual of my nature. And that was a really hard and dark time in processing all of that and understanding that this is a dark time for me. But because I was still in a state of in denial, I just didn't want to acknowledge it, but rather just like plow through. You know, I think ethnically I am a black man, and I grew up in a black culture where a lot of the time, in my opinion, and I want to emphasize this is my opinion and this is from my perspective, is that we cover up a lot of our issues. It's like a soft wound, like we don't talk about it, it happened, and we move on from it, rather than acknowledging it head on and saying, this is fucked up. What is happening right now is fucked up and it hurts. Like, I want to cry right now, but I can't because I need to be a strong black man. I want to be upset right now, but I can't because I'm a strong black man. I want to tell people that I'm going through these issues, but no, I'm a strong black man. But can't a strong black man cry? Can't a strong man be upset? Can't a strong black man be broken? And that's okay. And I know, like, we hear it, but I feel like it's been sensationalized rather than fact. It's a fact. Humans get upset. People get upset. Doesn't matter what race you are. We get upset. So processing that as one, a person, a human being, on top of that being a black male, and furthermore, a person of LGBT community, black male on top of that, played its roles in significant ways. So that took some time to digest. Then I started having conversations with people, which is what we're doing right now. We're having a conversation, which brought a new light to me, which I feel like people, depending on who you talk to, what groups you talk to, I can be very conversational. I can talk about shit. I can talk about things that are passionate for me, that be in the arts, that be in performing, that being about dance, movies, creativity. Oh my God, I can talk days on ends about that. But the moment that a friend stops you and goes, what the fuck is going on with you? What's happening? Talk to us. Then you realize that a lot of the things that you're talking about is pretty much surface level. Because there's people that are concerned. They're scared. They don't want to see you, gone. So what the heck is going on? So I started having these conversations that were hard, and that's okay. These conversations were not what I ever expected to have or want to have in my life. But there were conversations that were definitely needed to move forward in a way that I could look at what was causing these problems in my life. I don't even know if there were necessarily problems, but more so lessons. Lessons that I definitely needed to go through to become the person I was. Talking about the overarching theme of processing feelings, I had to kind of backtrack a little bit to where this may have kind of all started. So if you follow me, I want to talk briefly about my childhood and the process in which I thought I needed to go through to be a successful person. On top of that, a successful black person. And on top of that, and on top of that, a successful person as part of this LGBT community that also is black. And then you think about it the other way. I want to do good by the black people and be a strong role model, but just so happens to be LGBT. So there was a lot of like things that would go through my head. So let's go back a bit. I'm very proud of where I grew up. I grew up in South London, in an area around Peckham and Camberwell, and I'm proud of that. I'm not shy about it. And I think sometimes the location where you are brought up in or you grew up in sometimes really puts a hindrance on who you are as an individual. And I feel like a lot of the time when I would say, oh, I'm from Peckham or I'm from South London, it would come with like, oh, you're one of those. Oh, why are you speaking like that? Do you actually speak like that? You're not from South. Yeah, I can be from South, and I am from South, but I feel like maybe consciously or unconsciously, I decoded these things in my head and knowing that, okay, if these are the ways I want to get to the top, so quote unquote, code switching might have to come into play. Not consciously ever, because I am very proud to be from South London, but maybe very unconsciously I was like, what makes me so different from everyone else? I grew up with two parents that grew up outside of the UK. So a bit, I digress, but both parents grew up outside of the UK, one being from Ghana and one growing up in Jamaica. Very proud of my culture, brat, Jamaicans, Ghanaians out there listening, thank you. You know what it is. But love to Africa, love to the Caribbean, honestly. I think there's a way of being proud of where you're from and also dividing where we're from. And I kind of want to start knocking that on its head a little bit. And we'll have that conversation throughout this season with the guests that we have. So you'll see as we talk about that as well. But very proud from where I'm from, Ghana, Jamaica, South London, we're all good. So that's like the kind of culture I grew up in. Very strong-willed people in my family, which I'm proud about. Very thankful, very determined human beings that were like, no, we need better for ourselves. This is how we can do that, and this is how we are going about doing this. So I knew from a very young age that there was a lot of sacrifice made on behalf of my family to get me to where I was. Or where I was living. So the opportunities that was granted to me were never, or I would pray or hope that, or never perceived to be taken in vain. I am a professional gymnast who competed for Great Britain, which was beyond my wildest dreams. I knew that's where I was wanting to go, but actually obtaining that is another story in itself. So growing up as a kid, I always had a plan. I was very plan orientated. My father would always say, I don't know if it's a Caribbean quote, but he would always say to me, you know, if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And if you're failing to plan, then that means that you had no plan. I think I'll quote that poorly, but I hope you get the gist of it. Is that you always should have a plan, even if it's not the plan that you expected. And for me, I think unconsciously it was drilled in there. It was there. Like the first time I ever heard it, I was like, okay, locked in. I'm locked in. I have a plan. So my plan was, okay, I'm going to train as hard as I can. I'm going to go to as many clubs as I can. I did have a base gymnastics club. I was like, I'm going to go to as many clubs as I can. But from a young age, I had always danced. So that was always like the niggling thing in me. It was like, I'm a dancer, but I'm also a gymnast, but I also like performing. So there was all of those things playing in my mind, as well as being like, but okay, if I'm a performer and I'm a male, they're gonna think I'm gay. And then if I do gymnastics, they already think I'm gay, so it doesn't really matter. So what do? I need to choose which one looks stronger. And the one that looked stronger was gymnastics for me. But I knew I was a performer. So let's get that out of the way. I knew I was a performer. I knew that's what I wanted to do also. So I started really young, danced at like, I think as young as 2 or 3. As my mom always likes to say, she's like, as soon as you could walk, you were moving, you were dancing, you were up and down. So she never lets me forget that. Then I went into gymnastics, which was a godsend. I went to gymnastics in a deprived area, quote unquote, and easily I saw a lot of people as I grew up leave and assimilate to a life that is expected of me. Joining a gang or unfortunately passing away due to gang violence or not being able to have the discipline that you get from being in gymnastics. That's commitment, that's time, that's missing birthday parties, that's missing family gatherings. It got to a point in my life where like people just stopped inviting me to stuff because they're like, oh, he's training, he's not gonna come. And I think those kind of things started to play a part in my brain, like, oh, I'm not worthy of being invited. Might not be the case, but as a teenager or growing up with this plan, this mental plan, I'm trying to do this for everyone. I'm doing this for everyone. Not just me, I'm doing this for everyone. I'm trying to get to a place or credibility that no one else needs to worry about this so-called plan that I'm worrying about. No one needs to worry about it because I want to sort it. I'm going to be Superman and I'm going to sort everything. Being not included made me feel like they don't care. And truly, it might not have been the case. And I think in some cases, I just wanted to feel wanted. And that feeling of not feeling a part of something that is supposed to be your blood, something that's supposed to be like, innately your tribe, felt no longer. There was some family issues within my household, which I think at this point in time is a place that I would like to keep it private and personal. At this point, which I know I had a few discussions with my sibling and my mom in season 1, so if you want to go back to season 1 to listen to certain parts of that'd be great. But at this point in time, I think in relevance of trying to, I don't want to use the word rise up, but just almost moving forward with where I am in life, it almost doesn't amount to where I've got to today. It was only a stepping stone to where I needed to experience and grow from and move forwards. So, back to my story. So growing up with that mentality that, okay, I'm going to try and help everyone, I'm going to be Superman, didn't really work in my favor because then people were like, oh, he can't come to this, he's not going to go to this, so what's the point of inviting him? But then I was in this weird age group where like a lot of the friends I had made are slightly older than me, but then my age mates groups weren't, I guess, mature as me. So then I was in this weird space of like, where do I go? And then that's when I think, at least in my perspective, my people pleasing habit started, where I was like, okay, I just want to be wanted. I want to be, a part of something. I want someone to feel like I'm part of their family or they care about me. So I would be like, trying to be involved in conversations that maybe weren't typical of my age, but like be involved in conversations that would, stimulate my brain, be like, okay, is this what I need to look forward to? When I reach this age, this is what I need to be thinking about. How am I gonna balance my exams with like studying whilst doing this? So I started getting creative. Like, okay, I used to travel really far to school, which was usually like an hour and a half, depending on how bad the traffic was. I think at some point it could be 2 hours. And, I didn't have a lot of money. I started working when I was 13. So anything that like I had to save if I wanted to go certain places, or like if people invited me out, I'm like, okay, this is the money that I'm saving for this event. Not to say that there weren't people on the way that supported me, by all means, that also did occur, but just like I was really mindful or like always embarrassed to ask for help. So, because I just wanted to prove like how independent I was. So, with being creative, I'd be on the bus, like studying or like recording myself the whole journey so I could put it in my headphones and recite back everything that I had learned in class, or recite back everything that I've been studying lately, or if it was maths equation, this is how you do the maths equation, and have like so many recordings on my phone and just like listening to that, writing it on the bus, or like sleeping, like if I need to catch up on sleep, like sleeping on the bus and just listening to it. And it's even funny, like my siblings will always say like, I swear I never saw you study. And it's like, yeah, because you probably didn't. Like, if I was, it would be like just before bed or on my way to gymnastics after going to school, or like just anywhere and anywhere I could, I would do it. And then momentum started picking up, and then I had this niggling feeling for dance still, and now that oh just broke my voice. But that was the hard part, knowing that yeah, I'm a good gymnast. Like, and that's how I felt like I'm alright. Like I'm alright at the sport. You know, I can do some tricks. It's cool. And I think that was also at my detriment, that I always thought I'm alright, rather than no, I'm freaking great. Like I'm really good at what I do, and I had a passion for it. But you know, um, I don't want to say unfortunately, but there was always comparison, and there always will be comparison until you know better or to do better and not to do that. So I was always compared to these other people that maybe weren't technically great. When I say technically great, but like like actual technique, but they had a lot of power, would do these crazy skills, or people that like were just really fearless, and that's amazing for them. And I also want to highlight that, like, phenomenal. The people that came out of the place that we trained, phenomenal. So I want to just leave that there also. But for me, it was like I wanted to know exactly how to do something. I wanted to know, okay, if my pinky toe is out of place, how can I change that? Or like, I think a lot of people thought things came to me naturally, and I think in some regards it did, but in other regards, I'm like at home watching a routine, or I'm at home listening to something over and over and over and over again. And the hours that went into that were almost harmful than beneficial. At one point, I think I was at 3 different clubs just trying to get all that training in to get me to the level that I wanted to be at. And putting that kind of tax on a body at 14 is not necessarily healthy. That's like 3 hours conditioning at one club, another 2.5 hours conditioning at another club, and then another club asking me to like tumble for the next 3 hours. Like, it just wasn't okay. And but once again, I had this plan in mind. So back to this dancing that was like niggling in my head, I started creating floor routines for other gymnasts, and I realized like, oh my god, I love this. I love this wholeheartedly. And this person, this human being who I still hold very near and dear to my heart, gave me an opportunity to choreograph a routine by Sia Chandelier, and that kind of set the tone for my creativity. Um, and they gave me a really beautiful opportunity that I think at the time was more scary than beneficial, because I was so scared. I wanted to get it so right that anything less than people's approval, I didn't care about the routine. But then that kind of set the tone for like anything I did. And it was like, oh, this is the standard. You can come in and just create this. I know you can just come in and just do this. Like, I would walk in and be like, and get asked, can you do this? And I'm like, okay, because I wanted to show like how good I was, and like, and how like multidisciplined I was. But that also came at a price where I think I became disposable to people. And it's not by all means anyone's fault, because we're just doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we have at the time. So I'm not going to hold that against anyone. But what I will say is that I think there was a lack of understanding of like maybe how that made me feel. But I will also say in that same breath that I never voiced how I felt. And I think that it is a thing about allowing young people to know that they have a voice that can make such a tremendous difference to how they move or navigate life moving forwards. So always understanding that I'm like in this place of approval, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I call it like the fuck it space, which is not great, is where my brain is like, what the hell am I doing? Who is this benefiting? Because I'm here creating routines at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I know I need to get up and study. I know that I need to be up at like 6 o'clock to get to where I need to get to the next day. What the hell am I doing? So digesting that again, it wasn't an overnight thing. This went on for many years until I was like, okay, I think I'm at my limit. Or to the point where people had told me, oh, why can't you make that routine again? Why can't it be see a chandelier? And I'm like, well, my mind is different. The time at which I made that was out of a place of fun, maybe like excitement. The place I'm at now creating is definitely a bit more political. It's a bit more like I want it to mean something. I don't want it just to be like they're flinging themselves on the floor because they can, or I'm going to add these many spins and these many split leaves because they can. No. Can this young person compete this? Can this young person feel comfortable in this? Can this young person feel like they're showing their best skills and feel supported? So I'm not going to be like everyone else and just throw everything in there just for the sake of it to look good. But I'm going to ask them, do you feel okay with this? Do you feel like this is showing you in the best light? Just because I can do it doesn't mean that you can freaking do it, you know? So I just kind of got to a place of like, this is maybe not okay. Whilst this was all going on, I was still training with Great Britain. And now I'm one of, okay, at the time I was the only black person on the team. But then they go through like rigorous training, and then we join the north and the south of England for like our final trainings. And it's me and this one other black man that walk into this hall, and when I tell you the acknowledgement and the sigh of relief of going, oh, thank fuck. Like, we didn't speak, well, we did speak, like, we'd hang out for lunch or whatever, but like, we wouldn't speak much, but it was just like the days that were testing, and not to say anyone was being racist or anything like that, but just more so like, just to feel like you understand that this is not like, this doesn't come as easy for us, was kind of very clear amongst, like, between us two, that was like, cool, got it, we're here, we're locked in. And it was a beautiful time, but this is where it comes back into that people pleasing. So whilst I was away competing for Great Britain, we were training, and I landed on my foot during practice before we had to go on to compete really badly. If anyone knows, I tore through my plantar fascia and I broke the bone on top of my foot. And at the time, I landed and I knew I had messed up. I landed on my foot and I knew I had messed up, but didn't think anything of it. My coach just looked at me and went, that was weird. Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I went to step on my foot. I fell to the floor. I was like, fuck. This can't be the story that I'm given. Like, this can't be my story. This can't be the story that I went to go and compete on this world stage and this international stage, should I say, and landed on my foot, and that's it. I'm out, and now we're disqualified because I hurt my foot on this basic skill that I've done 1,000 times. This is not how I'm going out. So I couldn't walk initially, and then the coach picks me up and was like, okay, we're done. This is done. I was like, no, strap my foot. We're going to go out. Let's just do this. Shout out to my French friend, Luke. Shout out to Luke. So I was competing against a friend of ours, and he was there, and he saw, and he literally runs in the middle of his routine, runs over to me and like, what the heck is going on? I said, I think my foot's out, but I just need it strapped up. And then they're like, okay, there's a doctor on our team. Just to know, gymnastics doesn't pay well. It doesn't really pay at all. So yeah. Anyway, this doctor runs over to me, looks at my foot, and goes, okay, this is fucked. What do you want to do? He's like, I've got tape, I've got this medicine and some cream. I said, give it to me all so we can go out. Literally, this is like 10 minutes before we have to go on. My foot's like swelling. He runs, gets tape, gets this gel thing, gets me like ibuprofen or like really strong ones because I felt really like, woo. Gave me, popped 2 of those, strapped my foot up, and we went out. And that was it. And we got the first medal for Great Britain. So, in hindsight, it's a great story, but it was out of this fear of being like, I'm the black guy that let the team down. Like, Great Britain, this is the first time they've invested all this time in creating and like, you know, specifically creating these teams that included me to, you know, get a medal for Great Britain. It had been like 20 years of competing in this competition and they've never won an award for it. Like, I'm not going to be the story that was like, I let this team down. So after this injury, had to fly back to England, my foot was done. And probably I made it worse by competing on it, but I didn't care because all I had in my head was we got this medal for Great Britain. There was nothing much said after it. It was just kind of like, oh, well done. Not to anyone's, like, it wasn't anyone's fault, but it was always, I feel like it sounds like I'm making an excuse, but generally it's just one of those things. You compete and then that's it. You move on from it. And as everyone's like training again for the next competition or like moving forwards, I'm here, can't move my toes. I'm doing like almost weekly or bi-weekly hospital visits by myself to see what the hell was wrong with my foot. I couldn't move my toes for almost a year. I was on crutches for over a year and a bit. Like, it was just a constant reminder. I made a choice out of trying to assimilate to a system that didn't or appeared to not care about me after they had got what they needed. Now, that was a hard pill to swallow because it was cool for everyone to be like, oh, you know, he had his foot when he went to go compete. Well done. Like, thank you for doing that. I was still coaching gymnastics. I was still creating routines on one foot. I was walking around the gym on my hands. Like, I made my way, I worked my way around it. I even did my dance exam on one foot. And the examiner was like, did you hurt your foot? And like went to go get my crutches afterwards. Like, I did whatever it meant that I needed to do to achieve because I have this plan. But this plan, as you can tell from these kind of like stories, is that this plan was getting me into positions that I guess for a lot of people just means that I had a lot of tenacity, but it was burning me out. And to me, it was okay if that meant that everyone else was going to be good. So moving swiftly, I was also studying at a performing arts school, which was beyond my wildest dreams because I had moved around a lot in schools because of not anything bad, nothing that anyone had done. Like, there was a bit of like torment here and there, but you know, kids will be kids. People are pricks sometimes. It is what it is. But yeah, I just moved around quite a bit for schools and I finally felt settled or finally felt seen at this performing arts school that was like a bit overwhelming, if I must say. It was like, we support the gays, we support people of different faiths. If you're Islamophobic, please fuck off. Like we support everyone here. Like, if you're a Hindu, we support you. If you're trans, we support you. If you're black, we support you. Like, it was just like, oh, okay, this is like, in my heart of hearts, like, everyone laughs at me and is like, oh, you just want to live in a utopia. But like, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, did I find utopia? is this utopia? Obviously, it came with its, as it does. Any establishment you work at or go to, it always comes with its things. But I was like, damn, okay, let's support the world. Um, and that was when my eyes opened to. I was like, I love entertaining people. And I think I knew that from before. I think there was an element of entertainment when I was doing gymnastics, like we would do performances. But I think this is really where I found my feet. Because initially I auditioned for the dance program and they said, I don't know if this would be a good fit for you. And that's when my world shattered again. Back to this plan. Like, my plan was I'm going to get into this, prolific uh, drama school, performing arts school, and I'll do dance. But then I got given musical theatre. I'm like, fuck, why are you gonna make me look more gay than I need to be? And it's like, and also to clarify, which doesn't really matter, but like, I don't associate disciplines or different curriculums with a sexuality, but more so it's just that that thing, that essence that like we associate these things with, and it's like it's actually quite ridiculous. And quite frankly, I don't know where it came from, but if that is your ideology, it just means that we've created, or people of the LGBT community plus have created such a beautiful world for people to live in. So and quite groundbreaking stuff that we still talk about to today. So that's another thing. But I was just not embarrassed, but I was almost like, I love this course, but how do I express to someone, oh, I'm doing musical theatre? Like, that's literally how I used to be like, oh, what are you studying? Musical theatre. And it's like, it's not a bad thing. It never was a bad thing. It was just, it wasn't the Peckham thing to do. It wasn't the South London thing to do. The name, the school that came with it was great. It was just wasn't the discipline that I was in wasn't the thing to do to be cool. But I really think I found myself. I found my people. I found my tribe. And the people that allowed me to express myself in the ways that I didn't know I needed help expressing myself with, or like being more earnest about, like, I like humans and that's okay. Like being more earnest about, like, I fuck with this musical, or I fuck with this show, or like that acting, that Stanislavski technique that you just did there, wow, blew my mind. Like, or like that Martha Graham technique, beautiful. Like it just allowed me to express myself in a whole different realm with people that were on the same vibration as me, and that they wanted to see me succeed in that way. And like, that's what I've been hungry for all these years, right? So finally having it, but then also in my side life, this career of like, I'm this Great Britain gymnast that, I have to stick to my morals. I have to have this strict discipline and, train like this, live like this, and then like living like my hush hush life on the side. It was quite, I don't know, it was quite liberating. Quite frankly, it was kind of like this thing, like my dirty little secret was on this hand, and then what I wanted everyone to see and present was in this hand. But not knowing that I could merge the two, and that would be okay. So that all happened, and I had a great time. There was obviously some ups and downs. Well, not obviously, but there was some ups and downs. And I had finished that, and I said, okay, my next step in this fucking plan I have of mine was to move to America. Yes, I got drawn in by this like American dream. So moved to America, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. So that was like a whole thing in itself. And that's when the unraveling started happening. The fuck, I planned to fail. That's when that hit me. My plan wasn't strong enough. I planned to fail. I came back and felt like a failure. people sent me off and being like, you're going to do so well out there, proud of you. And I failed. And this was like the first time that it hit me that, okay, I'm not great. I'm not good. Like, how did I fail? I can get up. I can get up and do gymnastics on a broken foot. I can stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning doing routines, then wake up to go to school and do a whole musical. I can, I can work at the age of 13. I can make routines. I can, help my family. It, like, but I can't move to another country successfully and get this Broadway career or like this actor's career that I can be like, yeah, I did this thing. I fucking failed. And that ate at me for quite some time. That in hand with uh, a relationship at the time that wasn't, I guess, necessarily supportive of like dreams that I wanted to obtain. That in hand of dealing with emotional wounds of childhood experiences. That in hand of, do I have a gymnastics career anymore with a foot that is not always the best, or cramps up, or I still need to do exercises on just to step side to side? Like, what the fuck was I thinking? It felt like the world was against me. I did come back and I did some really cool things. I got to do a show in the West End, which was really cool. I did some directing jobs, which like ignited my love for directing, which I had done directing, but like this was like solo dolo, and people were receiving it very well. Started making some like dance content, which was really cool, but always felt empty as like a failure. Which kind of brings us to the era that I'm in now, quite swiftly. Which I feel like a big jump, but because this section of my life we will talk about in season 2, kind of vicariously through other guests. I went about 4 or 5 years just trying to get it right. We also went through a pandemic, so that was a knock in itself. I put on some weight. Well, I put on weight, and there was nothing wrong with that. I felt happy, but I also felt simultaneously really sad. But it was okay. It was okay. Those things were okay, because I knew these are things that I knew I could, if I wanted to change, I could, and it was about that choice. And then we get to this kind of era which was scary and caused for a season 2 of In the Process of Healing, is I moved again. I moved to Canada. That came with its triumphs. That also came with its hardships. Dealing with the fear that I felt before moving to America, I just couldn't fathom failing again. However, I understood that if I had to come back or move back to England, that it was either for a reason or this wasn't my place. But I also understand that fighting for a place in somewhere that you feel is home is also important. And I felt at peace, finally. Which I think is a big statement. It felt silent for once. It felt like there was no expectation. There was no plan. There was just life. And that was more scary, more thrilling, more fearful than I've ever been in my whole life. It was more painful than the failure. It was more scary than the triumphs. It was just life. I was left with life. Left with various options. Left with what to do next, how to do next. I've never felt something quite like it before. and in the place of being like, okay, it's there's no one else. It's just you and yourself in this moment. What would you want to do without all the additional noise of other people? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to do it? And I guess this is what brings us to season 2 of In the Process of Healing. I just want to say thank you if you've listened all the way through. This has been a journey for me, and I hope that this season brings a new light or a new element to In the Process of Healing, and a bit more understanding why I do things the way I do things, or the way I want to discuss and help or emulate in this world the way I know I can. And I just want you to feel that this space is safe. If you do interact with this podcast or interact with me over social media, please, let's make it kind. Obviously give your opinions, but I just really, really, really kindly ask that we keep it safe, we keep it kind, keep it warm, we keep it constructive. I think that's the key word I'm looking for, is constructive. And understand that we're all coming from different walks of life, and that we all just want to live an optimal life. We want to live the best life that we can possible. But as this season goes on, I have some great topics, I have some great guests, and I hope you enjoy this journey. I hope you enjoy the new video aspect. Yeah, just be gracious with this podcast. I think the beauty of podcasts is that it's raw. It's just something that you can listen to on your journeys. So yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me for season 2 of In the Process of Healing. I hope you enjoy.